Buena Vista, over near St. Joe's. And they moved in next to me.
I didn't realize that. Okay. All right.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for August 17th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Celeste, could you please call roll?
David Brown,
Present?
Vic Caldwell,
Present.
Derek Hunt,
Present.
Victor Mendoza, Dan Minkalinka,
Here.
Brian Olguin, Monica Rodriguez, Brian Rokita, Cynthia Staley.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Celeste. Good evening. All right, tonight's meeting again is being simulcast via TV 15, everyone, so hello, everybody. Next thing on the agenda tonight, we have Ms. Fogan. I understand we have two commissioners that are ending their terms, their last
Yes.
meeting of their.
Yes, and we have some plaques to present. Of course, Mr. Brian Rokita, who's not here, we'll have to get his plaque to him later. He was first appointed to Planning Commission in 2018 and has served 2 terms, so we're very appreciative of his service. And then Mr. Caldwell, I have a plaque for you. You were first appointed in 2020 and served 1 term. This go around, of course, you had previously served on the Planning Commission, so I'm not sure your total service. I think it's about 2.5 terms.
Off and on, it's been a lot, yeah.
It's been a while, so we very much appreciate that. So I have a plaque to present to you.
We thank you. We thank both of y'all, Brian.
Been an honor.
And Vic.
And then I have one more announcement. I just want to take a moment to introduce our new planner, David LaFontant. If he wants to stand up real quick. He just joined us July 31st. So David is a recent graduate from Florida State University out of Tallahassee with a master's in urban and regional planning, and then he has a bachelor's in biology. So we'll take all that planning
Awesome.
knowledge, though, and we just want to welcome him to the team.
All right. Glad to have you on the team. All right, well, next on the agenda is citizens' communication. So do we have any citizens wishing to speak only to items not listed for a public hearing? And if you do, please come up and limit your talk to 5 minutes. All right, looks like I don't have anybody for the public hearing. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll start off with our first item on the agenda, which would be a variance request for a minimum off-street parking requirement for Mitchell Artisan Market and more. Tyler?
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Our first item on the agenda this evening is a variance request for Mitchell Artisan Market and More. James Wearden is the owner and applicant. The subject property is located at 306 East Commercial Street in Victoria, Texas, and legally described as being Victoria, Block 162, Lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, Victoria, Victoria County, Texas. The subject property has long been developed as an educational institution for years. The Mitchell School was first built in 1902 as a high school and subsequently served as an elementary school, guidance center, and alternative school up until 2021. The Mitchell School was sold in 2022, and the new owner wishes to convert the Mitchell School from an educational institution into a general commercial use with multiple tenants occupying the main school building, the surrounding school buildings, as well as a potential food truck occupying the subject property. A commercial inspection for occupancy was performed on the main building because the use of the building was changing from an educational institution to general retail. At the time of the inspection, the owner only wished to occupy the main building for general retail use. The owner is now wishing to occupy the additional buildings on the property. The owner is requesting a variance to develop the property without providing additional off-street parking. During the commercial inspection, it was determined the subject property did not have adequate parking for the proposed use for general retail. Additional off-street parking was required to be built in order to comply with the off-street parking requirements needed to occupy the main building. So the main building is approximately 15,000 square feet, meaning that for general retail use, we would require a minimum of 60 off-street parking spaces. Section 21-92 does allow for the Director of Development Services to reduce the amount of off-street parking required for historic structures. At the time of the commercial inspection, the off-street parking requirement was reduced from 60 off-street parking spaces to 26 off-street parking spaces for the main building only, being used as general retail only. Since the initial commercial inspection, the use of the main building has changed from only general retail to general retail, office space, a small art studio, and still has multiple vacant spaces with no uses determined for them. The additional building's total square footage combined is approximately 6,720 square feet. The use of the additional buildings has not been determined, so calculating the parking requirements is dependent on the end use of the buildings. For example, if the additional buildings were to be used for retail, that would require an additional 27 off-street parking spaces. For example, a wine bar or a nightclub could require up to an additional 68 off-street parking spaces. Staff recommends the denial of the variance request to eliminate the requirement of off-street parking for the subject property. Staff has determined the granting of this variance could be detrimental to the public safety, health, or welfare and injurious to the surrounding properties. So without knowing the end use of the vacant spaces within the main building and the use of the surrounding outside buildings, staff cannot calculate the required off-street parking and therefore guarantee that the 26 off-street parking spaces currently provided would adequately accommodate all the uses of the subject property. Also, the Mitchell School is surrounded by predominantly residential structures where the overflow of on-street parking could become detrimental by potentially blocking the streets, residential driveways, and impede traffic flow to these residences. Off-street parking is vital to ensuring the orderly development of the subject property as well as the surrounding neighborhood. Now, the downtown business district located nearby does not have off-street parking requirements. However, it's predominantly commercial with striped on-street parking throughout. This area of downtown is different in nature than the downtown business district. So until the end uses of the property can be determined, staff recommends denying the variance request. However, further reduction of the required off-street parking may be possible in the future. The director is open to further reducing the required off-street parking for this historic structure, pending the impact the current reduction has on the area. If the surrounding on-street parking is not overburdened with the existing reduction, additional reductions may be possible. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions on? So it's
I've
for
got-
staff, and then
I've got a couple
public
questions.
hearing.
It's for staff. Has the applicant provided any kind of an alternative option, trying to work with the city on the numbers of parking spots, or are they just asking for a variance because they don't want to build more parking?
I think, there is a lot of opportunity for on-street parking in the area, but again, it's not of the same nature of your traditional downtown business district. We have posed to Public Works to maybe look at it and see if an option would be striping or, how could we potentially develop more like official on-street parking rather than just the parallel spaces that you would have on, any public residential type public street or local public street. And so that, I think is something that is an option in the future, but our Public Works Department has not had an opportunity to really design out or see what the impact would be or the cost to develop more official on-street parking. But I definitely believe there are options in the future, but I would like to see how the first reduction plays out. The first reduction was for the entire building, but for the entire Mitchell School building, not the outbuildings. But the Mitchell School building right now is not completely open and operational and completely leased out either.
Well, and it looks like they're going ahead with refurbishing other buildings as well. So that, obviously the plan is to develop those, but the owner hasn't come forward with okay, you're telling me we need X number, I can redevelop this area over here and put 25 more in. They're just wanting everything to be off-street.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really give any definitive answers whenever
Okay.
the end uses are so speculative, whenever, it change, if we
mean, I know
calculate for
I've gone
a
to
bar
events.
versus calculating for
Right.
a restaurant, all those calculations are very different and have a different parking impact.
But they're not offering an alternative plan.
I don't know that they can offer an alternative plan if they don't have the end users either.
Okay. I mean, I've been to events at Power Avenue where people have parked on the street all through that neighborhood, and it is often just a mess because not all the roads have curbs. It's not always clear where the road ends and like, for example, the park right across from Power Avenue. It's not clear where the road ends and the park starts. I've seen people parking in there. There's a reason why the ISD put a fence around Mitchell, was because people were parking over there. And so, I would really be, for myself personally, concerned about adding a lot of parking to those streets on a regular basis if this development is successful. And I'm kind of with staff, I'd like to see the development progress before we make a decision as to giving them a variance, saying, well, you don't have to worry about the off-street parking. We're going to waive that for right now. I'd rather wait and see what happens.
Let's go ahead and open up for a public hearing. We may have some people that would like to speak on this matter. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter, please do so. Please state your name and address, and please limit yourself to 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Claire Santiana. I'm the owner of Crossroads Art House. The address for that is 2914 North Laurent Street in the Town and Country Shopping Center. And we are doing our Art for Education location at the Mitchell School. So I'm really excited about that. And I want to start with commending the City of Victoria and the City Council and the city officials on actually creating the Arts and Cultural District. And just thank you for that. As an advocate for the arts, I really appreciate that. And I'm so excited that Mitchell is part of that Arts and Cultural District. But in order to create a thriving arts community, we do need to be able to utilize that green space that's at Mitchell. And so that, I'm worried that a parking lot would cover that green space and we wouldn't be able to use that anymore. And that's a really good opportunity to have events for the community, things out there for the community to come do, include the artists. I don't know if y'all know, but I do curate the art walks as well, the VTX Art Walk. And I am co-owner of Viva Texas Film Festival. So I work with over 90 creatives in the area for music, art, as well as Carissa Winter. She'll be up here in just a minute. But it would be honestly detrimental to lose that green space. And I have been to other places where schools have been remade into commercial, and one of them is Ivy Wild in Colorado Springs. I lived there for 3 years. I'm from here. But at Ivy Wild, they did utilize the street parking, on-street parking, just because it used to be a school. And it worked out really well there. It was a really amazing place to go. And the artists were able to thrive there as well. So that's kind of what I hope Mitchell could be, being an artisan market. I know at Art House, we don't always have a lot of parking spaces used up because parents drop off and then the kids come inside and parents don't stay the whole time. So it's not like we're gonna suck up a lot of parking spaces as far as my business is concerned. But I just think that encouraging the Arts and Cultural District will just help, I think, in the overall goals of the master plan. And this building is essential to that. It's historical, it's supporting artists. We're gonna have artists teaching inside of Art House. We have multiple artists lined up for the fall, including sewing, painting, mosaics. We have out-of-town artists coming. We have all kinds of amazing plans that I think can only enhance that Arts and Cultural District and hopefully lead to like even more funding to help the artists, Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carissa Winters at the Mitchell School, 306 East Commercial Street. I am opening Lucky Robot Toy Store. It is going to be a pathway for special needs individuals. I'm working with Workforce, actually, the state of Texas, to create a program actually for these special needs individuals. My daughter is special needs, so this is very near and dear to my heart to create something like that. The Mitchell School is a really great place to create a vibrant area in our community. And it's not just going to be for businesses to open up. We're also taking in what the community has said. I've asked so many people as I do Innovation Collective as well. So I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, community members, and we are taking in mind what they say that they would like to see in the community, a sandbox and a gathering area for families to be. Sip and Shine is planning on being the food truck that is coming on the property. So that's, where you grab and go, a coffee, things like that. The thing that I really love about the Mitchell School is being for the community. And I think it's a detriment, honestly, not to create a pathway for this to have businesses, because there are so many business owners looking for a space, especially in downtown Victoria, and there really isn't much readily available. So when you are talking to bigger companies that are creating those high-paying jobs that we want in Victoria to help our community thrive, they look at quality of life. Quality of life entails people being able to have things to do with their families, being able to start a business, being able to go to events and things like that. We plan on doing movies on the lawn and having art projects, things going on for VISD students. So it's more than just these businesses in there. And I will let you know there have been no talks of a nightclub, so I do not know where that came from. But this is for the community. We're even doing a mural project that community members have put up and said that they wanted. So I do think it's a detriment to create roadblocks, to create more businesses from coming in there, because it's something our community needs. But also, when we are in this building, other businesses coming in bring more business to that area. As you know, it is not on the main street. So we are going to need to attract more people coming to that area. And as you said, the Power Avenue warehouse is there. They've had events. Well, then let's find a better way for the off-street parking to happen, where it is a better solution to how that is done. And, on the side, it's a park where there is no housing. So there's realistically only a few houses. And there's actually a business across the street from us, a tattoo business. So I would like to see this area of downtown revitalized and get more love, and also to create a pathway for these entrepreneurs that are looking for somewhere to go, and for families to have somewhere family friendly, for the people who work downtown and live in our community to have a place to go, to have a gathering spot, as this is something they've really told me that they wanted. And I do believe in this. I'm not just talking the talk, I'm walking the walk. I am investing in our community and opening a brick and mortar, and I believe in the Mitchell School so much so I could have opened a business in anywhere in town. And I thought it was so cool to see this building being revitalized. And I also lived in Colorado for a few years in the school that she referred to. It was amazing to see the impact and the way that they were able to give back to the community. And I would really like to see the Mitchell School do that as well. Do I have any questions?
No questions, but want to say happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you. 40. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. All righty, I see no one else. Oh, we got someone coming in the back, okay.
Good evening. My name is Kathy McBroom Fox. I'm actually a homeowner across the street from the Mitchell School. I think it's amazing what they're doing. I think the revitalization of downtown Victoria is detrimental to the city of Victoria. My main concern is the parking, obviously in front of my home. My family, we attend majority of the events downtown, which we absolutely love being able to walk to. The only issue is when people block your driveway, or they block the entrance to your home. I have no problem with on-street parking. It's just the inconvenience of that because I have come home from a downtown event to take my family to dinner and not been able to get out of my driveway. So if there's a way to, thanks, tippy toes, sorry. If there is a way that signage can be posted, do not block driveways, do not block entrances to people's homes, just, it's common courtesy issues for me. But I absolutely love the revitalization of the Mitchell School. I myself, we have a historic home. So I think it's obviously important to the city of Victoria, but we also need to be considerate of the homeowners like myself. We do have a family, we have kids, so that is a concern for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I actually had a question for her, but she left for one.
Well, you can go ahead.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me. How you doing? I actually do have a question for you. So you being one of the residents, and I'm quite sure that you converse with your neighbors. Have you spoken with your neighbors at all dealing with this situation? Have you heard anything from your neighbors?
Only one, but, and her the same, but her driveway is on a different street, so it doesn't really affect them as much as it would us. Because I literally am directly across the street from where the leasing sign is.
But your driveway is on the other street.
Right,
It's not across from Mitchell School.
right, just my front
It's
door.
not across from Block 162.
Right,
All right. Thank you.
my front door is.
Thank you.
Ready?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Commissioners. Good evening. Congratulations, Vic. You've served the city well for many years, and I've had the opportunity to serve with you, so I know how much commitment you make. Commissioners, thank y'all for hearing this variance request tonight. I wouldn't be up here unless I thought this was important to downtown. I've committed 30 years plus to making downtown better, and I would not do anything to detrimentally affect downtown. In buying Mitchell School, it was a decision and it wasn't an easy one. Repurposing a school is very difficult. There is no blueprint for that. When the city says, your ideas are changing or your occupancies are changing, they've changed a little bit. But I made a commitment early on when I talked to Rick Madrid, who did a fantastic job as city building official and assistant development director, to make the opening of the Mitchell School building possible, that would be a occupancy that was retail and business. And we have committed to that, and we have remained committed to that. That has not changed over the course of any of this. And just so y'all have an idea of what Mitchell School is to this community, this is Mitchell School. Now, this is not exactly the building that we see today, but this is pretty amazing that the city of Victoria still has a building like this from 1901 that can be reutilized in the way that it's being done. Now, this building here is what was called the music hall or the auditorium, and it looks very similar to this today. Very similar, very similar. In buying Mitchell School, it was a sealed bid process. And I made a commitment to VISD when I made my sealed bid that I would restore Mitchell School and that I would repurpose it in a way that it would open it up to the community and maintain the current green space. Okay, I made that commitment to VISD. VISD accepted my bid to do that. So I have followed that path. In doing so, it required a compromise. And the compromise I made was early on with the development office. The school had a non-conforming driveway, similar to what the public library still has on Power. And there were 8 parking spaces at Mitchell School, okay? Today, if you look at the site plan, we have over 26 parking spaces off-street with 2 ADA spaces and a commercial driveway. The driveway no longer enters and exits off of Power. It enters off of De Leon. I worked with Tyler on that for a long time, and he made some good suggestions because when you're entering off of De Leon, you're not conflicting with any kind of driveways or cross traffic. Memorial Square is never going to be developed commercially. It is a sacred ground. That is a public cemetery. So there is no conflict with cars getting in and out of there. So let's talk a little bit about what's gone on in the neighborhood over the years. My grandfather was there back in the 1920s off of Wheeler Street. And this predates a lot of y'all's knowledge, but Navarro did not run through that area. Navarro stopped at the railroad tracks, and Wheeler was the primary business artery of that area. So I would beg to differ with the city staff that that area is primarily residential. It's always been mixed. It's been a mixture of residential and commercial for decades, for its whole existence. It's totally different than an area like Brownson School west of Moody, which is almost exclusively residential. So I want to clarify that to y'all as commissioners. That area has never been primarily residential. It's been a mixture. Union Pacific, where Power Avenue Warehouse was, that was a wholesale grocery store warehouse. The railroad tracks have run through there ever since the founding of Victoria. So that's one of the reasons why it's never been a primary residential area, because that constant noise that goes through there. And early on, people told me, well, it'd make a great hotel over there at Mitchell School. And I said, yeah, it might make a great hotel if you want to hear your guests complaining about the railroad coming in. So that was off the table. The easy thing with Mitchell School would have been to say, well, let's just make it into a private residence and we don't have an off-street parking requirement. But I made the commitment to do it. So what's gone on since Mitchell's closed? Well, before Mitchell closed, I don't know if y'all remember, but there was COVID. And VISD, during the emergency, chose to lease out that property during COVID. So for over a year, it served as a commercial infusion center. There were no issues with that usage of that building. It did not have a conforming driveway. It didn't have the spaces we had. It had 8 spaces. What's happened this year since we redeveloped that property? Well, we've hosted a nonprofit fundraiser over there. The parking lot was not ready to be utilized at that time. The parking lot was closed. Was there an issue? We had 100+ people come in over the course of an evening. There were no blocked driveways. There were no complaints of any issues because on-street parking exists. What happened in August of this year? We had an opening, a sneak peek of Mitchell. So over the course of 11 to 1 o'clock, midday, we had over 175 people come through there on and off. There was no issue. If you look at the packets you've been sent, we did a study and it shows you all the on-street parking that is available in the surrounding area. So even if it was used as a nightclub, which has never been proposed to anyone at the development office, 68 spaces, there's over 200 spaces on and off-street parking at that location.
Excuse me.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna give you one more minute.
Yes, sir.
Because you already went over 2.
Okay. So in closing,
Go ahead.
I want y'all to know how important this is to downtown.
I agree.
And extending this into 60 feet over and making this part of the business district is the right thing to do. This area has so much potential for Victoria, not only from property tax, but sales tax and entrepreneurs. Yesterday, I sat down with a young lady from Port Lavaca, and she was so excited because she said, you know what, I can afford to go into Mitchell School. I can come out of my home, out of one of my bedrooms where I'm doing my business, and I can set up shop in Mitchell School. I heard the same thing from another lady today that's looking at being at Mitchell School and opening up another business. I got a letter and I don't think, or a card, I never receive cards from people because I'm in the landlord business and usually people have problems not congratulations. This is from Jennifer Rhodey Hartman. I don't think she would be upset if I shared this with you. James, we appreciate the opportunity to earn your trust in your business. Thank you for letting us be a part of this wonderful venture. Jennifer, P.S., and thanks for bringing life back to this wonderful building. Jim's late mother was a student there. I hear that all the time. Everybody's got a Mitchell story. This is a good thing for Victoria. And creating a Walmart parking lot over there is not the answer. Giving up more green space is not the answer. And I humbly ask you, commissioners, do the right thing. Let's extend this business district to the Mitchell Block 162. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody? I'm gonna close it first.
Further questions?
I was gonna ask that. Anybody have any more questions?
Well, I have
I'll be
lots.
happy to answer them.
Sir?
I have lots.
Okay, well, we're gonna, the
Yeah.
public hearing, we're gonna go
Yeah.
ahead and close it, and then if we need to ask. So I wanna go ahead and close the public hearing, because there seems like no one else wants to talk. We'll open it up back to, well, as commissioners anymore.
Yeah, I just want to say something, prior to we get to a lot of your questions. The overall spectrum, I believe it's a great thing. I'm always for anytime we're doing any revitalization, any remodeling, especially whether it's downtown or south side. I also look at consideration of, dealing with the residencies, and as for those that own homes and those that, sometimes we don't want to have what was considered inconveniences or anything of that nature. I can understand, especially being festive and how good people are with bringing people there, how the traffic can elude, and that's my concern. My question is dealing with, is there a compromise? Is there, because even when looking at that space, which I want to say is a fantabulous, I don't even think that's a word in the dictionary, but it's great on the way the building looked, the structure. It's beautiful. And then we talk about the green spaces, and I'm saying, well, is there any kind of compromise where there can be, where we still kind of bring some parking and still keep green space? And so I don't know, that's one of my concerns. It's a conflicting thing. For me, I do understand the let's see it go and play out, on how, for any variances is approved, but I don't know. So I really want to just to hear everybody in the discussion of what we,
Julie, is the certificate of occupancy dependent upon this?
So he already has a certificate of occupancy for the main actual Mitchell School building for a retail use. But if you were to propose, I mentioned nightclub, and yes, he hasn't proposed that, but we've talked about potentially wine bar. Well, in the code, a wine bar and a nightclub have the same parking requirements, in an outside building. So if you were to ask for a certificate of occupancy for that, then without providing the required off-street parking, that certificate of occupancy for that building, for that use, would not be issued. And so it's a request for a blanket variance to not provide any additional off-street parking, no matter what the use is in any of the outbuildings. But there is a certificate of occupancy for the main 15,000 square foot Mitchell building for retail use, based off of our department's reduction of the 60 required to the 26 spaces that he provided.
If we take no action on this, how long can it sit on the shelf before the request expires?
I believe you're a recommending body, so I believe our code sets out that you make a recommendation to council, and then council makes the final decision.
Okay.
So if right now, first of all, the city already reduced the amount of on-site parking. We did that already.
Yeah, the entire Mitchell School
Right.
could be occupied with a retail or lesser use. So office parking is a lower requirement than retail parking. So a retail parking is one space per 250 square feet. So we would approve, each space has to go through a CIO, but we would approve that if it's retail or less for the Mitchell School building.
So we have Mitchell School that's already ready to go. We got it parking. Now we got that building where I attended 4-H years ago.
The music
So, yeah,
building.
I didn't go to Mitchell School, I attended 4-H.
Uh-huh.
So that, it's not
There's no CO for that
There's
building.
not, it's not in there yet, so really, so if there's a art, people can still do what they gotta do in Mitchell School, right? Because we're set up. It's just those other buildings, and right now, we don't know what is those other buildings and what is going to, come about. And I think so it's not off the table, right?
Right. And I'm kind of with you. The building, the main building has been approved.
Yeah,
It
we're
can be
good. We can do
occupied,
what we
it can
wanna
be utilized, it can be rented, there's parking. And for me, until those other three buildings are identified, it's like we're putting the cart before the horse. We want to get permission to have all this extra, to not have to put extra parking on the property because we haven't quite figured out what we're doing with these other buildings yet. I'd rather put the horse back in front of the cart. Let's figure out what those other buildings are going to be utilized for, and then come back and approach the commission and the council with regard to a variance for the off-street
My
parking.
understanding is if we're, like I said, like Julie said, we're a recommendation, they can still go to city council, and city council can approve or disapprove it.
Right.
Been there.
And,
You've been there.
oh yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think it's a great development.
Yeah.
James, and you and I have known each other a long time, and I admire some of the things that you've done for downtown Victoria, and this is another one. But I think we're out of sync. I'd like to see, please.
I don't have a problem, if you limit yourself.
Well, yeah, it's up to the boss.
I'm trying to confirm whether the time limit is the same as the applicant. I'm looking
I
at it
appreciate
right
that,
now.
but I don't know either. I was doing like we always did.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to verify. I've not found it yet, but I think,
I think if the rules of the commission is okay with it, if everybody on the commission
Yeah,
is okay.
well, I gave him 8 minutes, so.
I know.
I'm trying to be right.
Yeah, leave it to me.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Mr. Weird?
May I speak?
Yes, sir.
So I guess the bottom line is Mitchell School has buildings that were built before the subdivision ordinance. In order to utilize them, there's not more green space to give. So that's the trade-off. There's not any clear answers about any additional parking. There is a clear study in your packet that shows plenty of on-street parking. Ken Gill hasn't had time to look at any kind of angled parking, but the street parking is there. Memorial Square is not going to be redeveloped. The Union Pacific is not going to give up their block where the lay-down yard is. And we're not going to be blocking the driveway of the lady that lives in the Brown House because she lives on William and her driveway is on the backside. So there's only 2 active residential driveways that are on the Mitchell block across the street. That's it. 2 total residential driveways. And I've never parked in somebody's driveway, and I've never seen anybody do it. Not to say that it couldn't happen, but I've never seen it. Signage could take care of that quite easily, as she suggested. Yes, sir.
Which way is her front door, sir?
Her front door faces toward Block 162. Her front door faces toward Block 162. And she has a house next door to her in the middle of the block that has no off-street parking and has been used as a tattoo parlor and a nail salon with no off-street parking.
So it sounds like
Go ahead,
there's a
Mr.
lot of
Brown.
interest in tabling this to discuss it further. But I think one piece that we're missing perhaps is the engineering study that might show how a parking plan might be developed for the immediate area, much like the one that you did.
Yes.
Yeah, because, I mean, yes, there may only be 2 houses, but he's referring to 200 on-street parking spots in the area.
Yes.
Well, that's more than just the 2 houses that are right immediately across from Mitchell. I mean, we're covering a couple of blocks.
Admittedly, yes.
And while I would love to see something going in there that would fill up that much and require that much parking, right now, I don't know that we need to say, yeah, we're going to give you a variance for parking, because we don't even know if he's going to be successful or not.
And my,
That's what I'm saying, is that we're not ready to do a variance. We'd rather table this.
well, I don't
And
think
I'm
we should table
suggesting
it.
that we
Well,
wait.
I think we have to decline.
Right, if the commissioners, we can deny the variance because we want more information for us, and I'm just speaking, say, for yours.
Yeah.
You want more, David wants more information on engineering studies to make a good, sound decision, right?
Yes.
All right. Then we won't table it, we'll have to just deny it. They can still go to the city council, and city council can agree or disagree with us.
And
So
let
we're
me-
just given, and correct me if I'm wrong on what I'm saying.
You summed it up well.
Allow me to clarify. The reason why I asked the question was I was trying to save Mr. Wearden from having to go through the process of making another application because we denied this one. If we could push it back a little ways and give Mr. Weird an opportunity to work with the department a little bit more, come up with some better plans, identify what he's gonna use those other 3 buildings for, what the intention is, and then
Well,
we,
there-
then.
I understand what he's saying, but this is the thing, even when you look at that, they would still have to go back in front of council. So it still will be a delay because we're a recommendation. We give a recommendation. City council gives the final say. I believe even if we were to deny it now, they still have a better shake of going before the council and present it to
We'll go for it, yeah.
get the final yes. And because we're looking for safety, we're looking for those reasons, whether, you know, it permits that, and they can probably get more of a sentimental view with the council, because in my mind, and I just think about the residency of where, okay, hey, this is the thing, I might have Thanksgiving. I might have family that's here. They might not all park in my driveway, but I want them to park in front of my house. And down there, not able to do that, you know, whatever, for whatever goes on. It's just too much out there to in my opinion, to make a sound decision on it, or to say yes. That's just me. So.
Okay,
Julie, were you going to say something?
Well, just for reference sake, I want to let y'all know that there's about between 50 and 60 spaces around De Leon Plaza. So if on-street parking were to be able to be developed similar to the De Leon Plaza, then that would, of course, gain quite a bit of actual structured parking. While it is on-street versus off-street, it still would be structured parking versus parallel, non-structured that currently exist. Which would, of course, change the situation greatly. But of course, that's not a decision Development Services can make. That's something that the Public Works Department has to evaluate and look at the cost and see if they can adequately, actually safely develop additional on-street parking. I also wanted to remind the commission that I do have the ability to further reduce more than what I've already reduced from the 60 to the 25, depending on a verified use that we know. I mean, if it was if the cafeteria had a retail use, for example, that goes in, and there's not all of Mitchell School being utilized at this point, we could switch that square footage out, give a certificate of occupancy based off of that, see what that impact is, and then again, if we can get more structured on-street parking, we can further reduce additional parking. I mean, there's a lot of options in the future, but approving this variance would be approving a carte blanche. Any occupancy must be approved in any building.
And that's my
at the
concern.
Mitchell site.
Yeah.
Is if we approve it, it's a carte blanche. Not that Mr. Weird is gonna put a nightclub in there, but you could put one in there because there's no stipulation that says there can't be. And that's my concern.
Legitimate concern.
anyone, any more, do I hear any motion action by our team right now? Does anyone want to make a motion to clarify what we?
Move that we deny the application for the variance.
Okay, I have a motion on the table by Vic Caldwell to deny the variance that is proposed to us today. Do I hear a second?
I would have to second it as it stands today, and I'm happy to, if you need additional comment later, but I would have to second that.
I have a second by Ms. Staley. All those in favor of denying the variance, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The variance request has been denied as per the was stipulated. All right. Our next up on the agenda is a variance request for Enchanted Gardens apartment. Staff, could you please give us a report?
Thank you, Commissioners. Our second item on the agenda tonight is a variance request for Enchanted Gardens Apartments. VTX Enchanted Gardens LTD is the owner, and Northfield Design Associates in the care of Donald R. Smith II is the agent. The subject property is located at 4601 North Ben Jordan Street and is legally described as Victoria Enchanted Gardens Block 1, Lot 1, 10 acres. The subject property is platted and currently is being developed as a multifamily residential lot. The owner is requesting a variance in order to allow for the approval of a freestanding monument sign to reduce the minimum setback required for permanent freestanding signs. Section 5-149A15 states that freestanding signs shall have a minimum setback of 10 feet from the property line to the closest point of the sign structure. The developer placed a freestanding monument sign approximately 0 to 2 feet off the property line. So North Ben Jordan Street is an existing secondary arterial thoroughfare with a right-of-way width of 90 feet. The property has been platted with no right-of-way dedications to the city of Victoria for future expansion of North Ben Jordan Street. The development did require a site plan to be submitted for approval before any construction could commence. The required site plan did not show a proposed sign location or signage details for this property. However, it did have a note that future sign permits would be required. It was an oversight by the contractor to not apply for and receive a permit prior to construction of the sign. Staff does not believe approving this variance will have a detrimental impact to the area. Sign setback requirements are primarily to allow expansion of a road and for visibility. Now, Celeste and I did go out to the property and test out the visibility for this sign. Exiting Enchanted Gardens Apartments, there are no visibility issues at this time. So approval of this variance should be subject to the condition that the sign shall be permitted per the plan submitted as part of the variance application and that no additional freestanding signage be constructed on North Ben Jordan Street frontage of Lot 1, Block 1. Thank you.
All right. I'll go ahead and open up for a public hearing as it's time. Anybody wishing to speak on this? All right. Nobody wishes to speak. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any thoughts from any motions, any actions, any?
Motion for approval. I'm sorry,
I
no discussion.
did go out there, and he's right, but, they should have called, right?
Yeah.
That's what happened.
This isn't the first time this has happened, but it's like,
And it's a shame that
Yeah.
it's still happening. But you can only do so much, right?
right.
My only concern is that they need to keep the landscaping down, like no landscaping around that.
Yes,
Because
that's my
can
big pet peeve, is the
totally-
landscaping that blocks being able to see.
100%, that's what would block.
We do
Well, it shouldn't
have
be an
a
issue
nuisance
because
code.
of the ditch.
What?
We do have a code in our nuisance section of our ordinance that basically we have site triangles and visibility standards. So code enforcement, that is a regular activity of code enforcement when they're blocking driveways and intersections, when landscaping blocks.
Good.
So if you have an issue, you can just give code enforcement a call and they can work it. But that happens in South Texas when things like to grow.
All right.
I make a
Do I
motion.
have a motion on the table?
I make a motion that we approve. Recommend.
We have a motion on the table by Dr. Hunt and a second by
Mr. Brown.
David Brown. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed, same sign. Motion variance passes. All right. Now, the next thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. It's the minutes from the last meeting on July 20th and the final plat from Victoria Square Reed Subdivision Number 3. Any motions, actions for the consent agenda? Do we have? We have a motion by Mr. Victor Mendez to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Vic Caldwell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. Now we're ready for other business. Ms. Julie?
Yes. Turned it off. So, I don't have a formal presentation to update you on the UDO. I do want to let you know that it's coming, though. So we finally, at the end of July, received all modules except for one. That's not really how we had proposed to go through them. We were supposed to be receiving them module by module, but that's okay. We finally have it 6 months later. And so we do have a schedule that we have put together with the steering committee. If you remember, Dan is on the steering committee as well as Brian, and then Gail Hood, who termed out. But the steering committee does have a schedule to go through the modules. At our next 2 or 3, at our September, October, and November, although in November we may ask you to be making a recommendation on the entire thing. So be prepared at our September and October Planning Commission meetings. I will be going over the big highlights of what the steering committee is proposing or recommending. And of course, I'll be sharing with you the drafts before then so you can read. A lot of the proposed ordinance is taking what we have and moving it over into a legal framework that complies with state law. So you know, a lot of our rules are kind of, they're not changing, especially like Chapter 5, the building code. You know, we adopt the ICC codes, so that's just copying, pasting it from one chapter into another chapter, cleaning it up, no substantial changes. So I won't cover, you know, things that are not substantial changes. But at the September and October meetings, I will go over what the steering committee recommends as far as substantial changes, so that we can, you know, you can be educated and then we can have discussions. And if we need to, I do foresee potentially us having another workshop or two within this fall timeframe to get this adopted. The timeframe is we will hopefully have it adopted by the second meeting in December by council with an effective date of January 1st, 2024. And like I said, 80% of the ordinance really isn't changing. It's just putting it into a legal framework that can be challenged, which is always very important. But I will definitely cover all of the big substantial changes with y'all. So more to come, and be prepared. We're actually having long, robust planning commission meetings these last few months. Unfortunately not. I might be able to get some snacks, so be prepared.
All right, thank you. I think our next meeting is August 31st, I think, right?
Yes, the subcommittee's
This is
meeting,
the,
yes.
right. All right, that's all. We'll go with the monthly development report. Mr. Tyler?
Thank you, Commissioners. So within the month of July 2023, the City of Victoria processed a total of 178 permits, as well as a total of 175 overall combined MEP permits. The City of Victoria collected approximately $58,000 within July 2023. Whereas in July 2022, the City of Victoria processed a total of 144 permits, as well as a total of 223 overall combined MEP permits. Within the month of July 2022, the City of Victoria collected approximately $53,000 in permit fees. Within the month of July 2023, the City of Victoria Development Services Department processed 5 minor plats, 1 major plat, and 6 site plans. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, items from the planning commissioners. Anybody have anything?
Just want to say, be prosperous.
Thanks. I just want to say, it has been an honor to serve with you guys and be on this commission. I also want to say that City of Victoria is very fortunate to have a staff like it has. I've known Julie since she was just sitting over there, and it's a great department. They're friendly, they're helpful. They're not there to be obstructionists. They're there to make things work. If you meet them halfway, sometimes it works even better, right? Yeah. So it has been great working with everybody. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Vic.
If we was getting paid for this, I thought you were working to get a check or something. Let's be sincere.
Nope, I'll see y'all on YouTube.
Seeing there's no other business, I will adjourn this meeting at 6:09.
Wow.
Run out here.
Thank you.